Okay, hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we're going to look at S3 pricing tiers. So a very popular exam topic is which tier of S3 should you use for a given scenario, and you will be expected to know the different prices for them and which one is going to be cheaper than the other. But before we get onto that, let's just look at what makes up the cost of S3. So with S3, you pay by the gig for storage. You also pay for requests and data retrievals. You also pay for data transfer and for management and replication. But what we're really going to focus on here is storage. We're going to focus on the storage tiers. So what are the different tiers? We've got S3 standard. We've got S3 infrequently accessed. We've got S3 one zone infrequently accessed. We've got S3 intelligent tiering. We've got S3 Glacier, and then we've got S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So those are the 6 different tiers. Now let's have a look at the different costs. And this is the cost out of Northern Virginia. It will change around the world, but it gives you a good overall idea. So S3 standard. If you look here for our first 50 terabytes, we're paying our storage price of 2.3 cents per gig. As we go over 50 terabytes and up to 450 terabytes, we're paying 2.2 cents. We're then going up to 2.1 cents for over 500 terabytes. Now you'll notice that S3 intelligent tiering is exactly the same price for those different ones. However, it gives you access to infrequently accessed tier, and the infrequently accessed tier is 1.25 cents. So it does make sense, instead of just using normal S3, if you do want to have the ability to save some money, you could use intelligent tiering, and then that way you've locked in these prices anyway. But if you do have objects that are being infrequently accessed, it is going to move it over to infrequently accessed all by itself, and that will drop your storage price roughly in half. However, you do have to remember, if you've got a lot of objects, you are going to incur monitoring and automation storage costs, and that is per 1,000 objects. We then have S3 infrequently accessed. Again, it's 1.25 cents per gig per month. We then have one zone infrequently accessed. That goes down to just 1 cent per gig per month. We then have Glacier, so we're getting into less than a cent, $0.04 per gig. And then the cheapest out of all of them is S3 Glacier Deep Archive at 0.00099 per gig. So that is the cheapest. So onto my exam tips. You need to understand how to get the best value out of S3. So as we saw, the most expensive tier is S3 standard. We then have S3 infrequently accessed, and you probably want to use S3 intelligent tiering because it takes advantage of S3 standard as well as then S3 infrequently accessed. Then if you want to save even more money, we go down to S3 one zone infrequently accessed. If you want to go cheaper, you go down to Glacier, and then you go down to S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So in a way, it's pretty simple. You try and avoid S3 standard as much as possible. If you are going to use S3 standard, why not use S3 intelligent tiering, unless you've got thousands or millions of objects, and that drives the cost out. But with S3 intelligent tiering, it's going to move your your objects from standard to infrequently accessed based on whether or not those objects are being used. And then if you want to go cheaper than S3 intelligent tiering, you've got S3 one zone IA. If you then want to use archival services, we've got Glacier, and then S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So you will get a whole bunch of different scenario questions, and it will say, hey, what's the best value S3 that you're going to use for this scenario, and you will have to identify the best tier to go with. And I'd always try and go with intelligent tiering. If you don't have to worry about redundancy, then you could go with S3 one zone IA. But do keep in mind, if that zone fails, you could lose your data. So that is it for this lecture, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.